They have been they have actively been trying to fool one another, trick one another. It's been fun to watch. I got a great start to the day. I don't know how many of you. Oh, there we go. We got some people coming in this evening. So welcome. Again, got a good start to the day. I got my exercise in first thing this morning. And I can't stress to you how important that is right now. To be able to get out and sweat a little bit. I know it's challenging and it's hard when you can't go to the gym, but been a great blessing and an encouragement for that. Hey Jim, hi Jerry, hi Kathy and Nancy. Appreciate you guys coming in. So I got my exercise, got home and got some breakfast, and spent some time with the Lord in the Word and in prayer this morning, and then got ready to head to work, and went to fill my cup up with ice to get a drink before I headed to the office. And as I filled my cup up with ice, I looked down, and there in my cup was frozen mixed vegetables. And so not only were my children trying to trick each other today, my wife managed to trick me this morning, so I had to start all over with my drink. Amy always wins April Fool's Day in our house. Last year she froze the kids' cereal and served it to them for breakfast, so that was quite entertaining. I see some more coming in. Hi Heather, Tammy, Alex, Becky, Irene. Thank you guys coming in. Hey everyone. Had a good day so far. I pray and trust that you have as well. We were just talking about some April Fools. So if you have some fun stories from today, feel free to comment. I'd love to hear more about those. But on a more serious note, I did want to take this opportunity to update my church family and let you know kind of where we're at right now. As everybody knows, it was my hope that we would be able to meet together for Easter Sunday service. We've been praying to that end, and with the announcement this weekend that the social distancing restrictions were going to be extended until April 30th, it looks like at this time, barring something, a drastic change, we're going to have to continue doing all of our services online for the month of April. I know that's not what we want, but that's what we're looking at, and so I wanted to make you aware of that. Hi Irene, hi Melissa. It's good to see you guys joining in. Hopefully you can see one another as well, and that'll be an encouragement to you. The elders and I are looking at some creative ways that we can minister to you over the month. Some of you have talked about a parking lot service. I know some churches have tried that. I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard a lot of pastors say they've had difficulties, troubles, a lot of technical difficulty. Certainly that's a concern if we consider to do something like that for Easter Sunday. Right now, at least we're able to communicate the Word of God clearly the way we're doing things. But we are open to that, looking at some options. I'll be meeting with the elders tomorrow via Zoom, right? Not in person, but we're still praying, trying to lead and shepherd you the best we can right now. Hi, Joanne. Good to see you. At least know you're here. So I want to encourage you right now while we're going to have to continue keeping our distance from each other, not going to be able to have our services in person. Let me just continue to honor the stay-at-home order. Please stay home and stay safe right now. And I do want to say, particularly to our church family who may be at risk or vulnerable, we do have those who are standing by and ready to do running for you. They'd be happy to go pick up groceries or prescriptions or whatever it is that you need. Hi Brenda, Tammy, and Rodney. It's good to see you guys come in. We were talking about April Fools, and I'm going to take there's Tammy. I'm going to take just a minute to share with you from the Word. I wanted to let you know that we're not going to be able to meet, it looks like, for the month of April. So you continue to pray for our leaders, pray for your church right now. Pastors, I've talked to several this week, and we're struggling with what to do and how to handle these days. And I think that's true for many of you as well. Some of you are home and you're not able to go out to work right now, and I know that's driving some of you crazy, stir crazy. But I just wanted to share briefly with you tonight. We're going to look at Habakkuk, particularly focusing on the last chapter, Habakkuk chapter 3, but just giving you a little bit of an overview. So I'm going to start in the first chapter, and we'll get there. And I'll do this as quickly as I can. But this book has always been a great encouragement to my heart. And so, hi Rachel, we're looking at Habakkuk chapter 1. In verse 2 it says, "O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear? Or cry to you violence, and you will not save?" Here in the first chapter, Habakkuk is praying, crying out to God, "Lord, how long do I have to pray, continue asking, continue seeking, and you do nothing?" You do nothing. And so what we find when we look at Habakkuk is he's a man who knows God. He grew up learning who God is. He knows his character. He knows his nature. He knows that God is all-knowing, all-powerful, all-present, all good, and yet he's struggling and he's wrestling. And so when we look at Habakkuk, particularly this book, his name means embrace, but a lot of commentators think that he means that he's wrestling with God, and it seems that way. And there's a back and forth, almost as if you're reading Habakkuk's journal, and he's just going, "Lord, I don't know what you're doing right now. Why won't you answer my prayer? Right? Why don't you do something?" And maybe you might feel that way as we're going through these times. We've been asking and seeking, and it seems like things continue to get worse, and things are out of control. In fact, in verse 3, Habakkuk says, "Why do you make me see iniquity? Why do you idly look at wrong? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife and contention arise." He says, "Why do I have to see this? How can you let this go on, Lord?" And he's sick of it. He's tired of it. And maybe you can relate to that tonight. So I see some more come in. So hi, Carol and Chris and Luke. It's good to see you all, at least virtually see you. We're looking at Habakkuk chapter 1. Habakkuk's wrestling, struggling with God, questioning. And it's a reminder for us tonight that it's okay to ask. It's okay to question. Sometimes people struggle with that. I don't want to question God. Well, God knows what's on your heart. He knows how you feel. And it's not wrong to say, "Lord, I don't understand what's going on. I don't know what's happening, but I'm looking to you." And that's what Habakkuk's doing, right? He's turning his questions and his doubts to the Lord. And that's really the purpose of this book, is all about faith. Right? Chapter 2, verse 4 says, the righteous shall live by their faith. And so I want you to think a little bit this evening about your faith. Is your faith equipped to handle difficult days, hard days like Habakkuk is facing here? Whenever he's questioning and he's seeking, and it doesn't seem like God is listening. Is your view of God big enough that it's able to overcome dark days? It's so vital in these days that we have a biblical worldview. John Piper says this: "Wimpy worldviews make wimpy Christians, and wimpy Christians won't survive the days ahead." That's so important for us to remember. But if I'm outlining the book of Hebrews, or Habakkuk, we've been spending Wednesday nights in Hebrews, but Habakkuk tonight, if I'm outlining Habakkuk just starts out here in these first few verses saying, "God, what are you doing?" And God responds. He replies. and he just tells Habakkuk, "I know exactly what I'm doing." In fact, in verse 6, he says, "I'm raising up the Chaldeans. Right? I'm going to send swift, fierce judgment upon your people, Habakkuk." And so you can imagine Habakkuk doesn't like that response. Right? He's been praying, asking God, "What are you doing?" And now God says, "Well, here's what I'm doing." And so in the midst of that, Habakkuk's going to respond. He goes, "Lord, are you sure? Are you sure you know what you're doing? All right, because I'm looking at this situation, I'm looking at this scenario, and I don't like your answer. In fact, in verse 2, or chapter 2, and verse 1, he says, I will take my stand at my watchpost and station myself on the tower and look out to see what he will say to me and what I will answer concerning my complaint. All right, Lord, I don't like your answer, and I'm going to wait until you give me a better one. That's where he's at right now. And so in chapter 2, the rest of the chapter, the Lord just responds, yes, Habakkuk, I know what I'm doing. In fact, he tells him in verse 2, write the vision, make it plain on tablets so he may run who reads it. Yeah, judgment is coming, Habakkuk. So you write it down and you let them know that they may run. But yes, down in verse 20 of chapter 2, it says, the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Habakkuk's going, God, what are you doing? Where are you at? And God says, Habakkuk, I'm on my throne where I have always been. And back in verse 14, he says, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. Yes, Habakkuk, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm on my throne, and I'm accomplishing my purpose for my glory. And we marvel at that. So Habakkuk gets his response, and in chapter 3, just kind of coming to where I wanted to get to this evening, in chapter 3, Habakkuk just says, oh, you do know what you're doing. Lord, I see. And so, we see a progression. He starts out in the valley, he moves to the watchtower, but at the end of the 3rd chapter, we see Habakkuk on the mountaintop. And so how does he move from the valley to the mountaintop? Well, he started out in prayer, and he ends this chapter in prayer. Chapter 3, verse 1, a prayer of Habakkuk. Verse 2, O Lord, I have heard the report of you, and your work, O Lord, do I fear. In the midst of the years, revive it. In the midst of the years, make it known. Right? Habakkuk saying, I know who you are, God. I know what you can do, and I want to see it. I want to see it in my day. Right? Show me. Right? And so in verse 3 through 15, Habakkuk is going to begin to look back on all the ways in which God has delivered, interacted, moved to save his people. And he's just going to say, Lord, do it again. Do it again. And in verse 16, he says, I hear, and my body trembles. My lips quiver at the sound. Rottenness enters into my bones. My legs tremble beneath me. Yet I will quietly wait for the day of trouble to come upon people who invade us. Habakkuk comes here to the end of the chapter. He says, Lord, I know that you could do these things, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to watch for the day when you deliver us. But right now, my body is trembling. My lips are quivering. He's afraid. And it's a reminder to us that it's okay to be afraid, and we can be afraid and still have faith. Right? You say, well, what is he afraid of? Well, he knows that this people is coming, and they're coming to decimate them. So he's afraid because he's about to lose his family. He's about to lose his home. He's about to lose his land, his friends. Right? These people are going to be carted off to another place. And so Habakkuk's saying, I know you are God, and I know that you're good, and I know that you know exactly what you're doing, but I'm afraid. And here's where I've really been thinking about today. Verse 17. He says, though the fig tree should not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, the produce of the olive fail, and the fields yield no food, the flock be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stalls. Now, what Habakkuk is saying here is simply this. Right? He's describing faith-crushing circumstances. If things don't get better, if things don't change. God, if you don't do anything, and this is what happens, then what? And that's really been on my mind a lot. We're all waiting and anticipating the day when things go back to normal. But what if? What if they don't get better? What if there is no vaccine? What if this is the new normal? Now, I'm not saying that is going to be the case. I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm not a prophet of doom, but is my faith strong enough if things don't change, and they don't get better, that I can live by faith. You know, there are many people that are right now, apart from the COVID-19 coronavirus, they're facing circumstances that will never change. They'll never get better. There are people who wake up every single day in excruciating pain. There are people who are fighting disease, the terrible disease like cancer, and there's no cure, right? There's no answer for that. And circumstances for them are not going to change. And yet, in those circumstances, can we live by faith? Can we live by faith? Now notice Habakkuk's response. Right, verse 18, right, if things don't get better, yet rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. God, the Lord, is my strength. You see the progression? He moves from valley to watchtower to mountaintop. How? Because his trust is in the Lord. The object of his faith is what matters. See, God is big enough no matter what the circumstance. And so if you're listening today, know this: the ability to get through days when there is no hope comes only through a relationship with the one true God, which comes only through a relationship with Jesus Christ. Right? This is what Habakkuk is. He's wrestling, he's struggling, he's really honest with God. God, what are you doing? Here's what I'm doing. I don't like what you're doing. God says, yes, I know what I'm doing. So we see Habakkuk's faith shine here, faith that goes beyond circumstances. It reminds me so much of Job, right? Job, he experiences that just trial after trial after trial, and he says, what? Though you slay me, yet will I trust you. What faith. There's a song by Shane and Shane by that name, Though You Slay Me. I'd encourage you to listen to it if you haven't, especially if you can hear it with the John Piper sermon clip in it. You can YouTube that. Or I think of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right, in the fiery furnace, standing before Nebuchadnezzar and it's saying, I know that my God can deliver me. But even if he doesn't, I still trust him. And this is where Habakkuk's at. Even if things do not change. So where is God? He's on his throne, exactly where he's always been. What is he doing? He's accomplishing his purpose for his glory. He says, I will fill the earth with the knowledge of me. Oh, that's what we want, right? Even through these days, these difficult, unusual days, we want to see the glory of the Lord made known. Does he care? Oh, yes, he cares. And so, brothers and sisters, look to him today. Wanted to take just an opportunity to give you an update on where we're at as a faith family, looking at the month of April. There's been some continued changes to our services, but also just to encourage you, right? Even if things don't change, and I imagine that God is going to, we're going to see the end of this, and we're going to see the good results that God brings about. But even if he doesn't, God will fill the earth with his glory, and we can trust him. We can trust him. And so let me encourage you to continue to do what you've been doing over these last few weeks. Pray for one another. Seek the Lord's face. If you're not using this time to draw near to him, again, you're missing the point. So spend some time in the Word of God. Spend some time with your family in prayer. And I want to encourage you to pray. I had a special prayer request come in this evening, and I know many of you have been praying for Tammy Goff. She has cancer, stage 4, and she's in the hospital right now. It's Norm and Nina's daughter, and so I would just ask you to pray especially for her at this time. She's been in a great deal of pain and needs our prayer. Again, there are circumstances outside of COVID-19 right now that are happening all over, and we want to continue to pray for these. And so, as we conclude this evening, take some time to pray with one another. But I love you, Grace Gospel Church, and all of those who are listening. I'm praying for you. Please continue to let me know if you need anything at all. We are here, available to help in any way that we can. So God bless. May he keep you until we meet again. Have a good day.